The TWA Flight 1 left from Newark on the morning of April 7th in 1936. Nellie Granger was a flight attendant on board of the plane. She was a member of the second training class of attendants. The flight was scheduled to make a stop near Philadelphia, PA, and Nellie welcomed passengers on board. The pilot for the flight was Otto Ferguson. The flight continued as scheduled, even though he had received a weather report stating cloudy and questionable conditions. He chose to use compass readings and the radio to guide the plane to Pittsburgh. Ferguson and the crew were unaware that the plane was off track and drifting south. Ferguson thought that the plane was closer to Pittsburgh than it actually was, so he started to make the descent toward the landing zone. At 10:09 a.m., Ferguson radioed in to ask to come in for landing. That was the last signal ever received from TWA Flight 1. At this same time, the townspeople of Connellsville reported seeing the plane flying extremely low and going over several houses in the town. After Ferguson realized the plane was too low and too far from Pittsburgh, there was not enough time to get the plane back to an appropriate altitude. The TWA Flight 1 crashed at 10:20 a.m., killing both Ferguson and his co-pilot on impact. Nellie and 2 other passengers were fortunate enough to have been thrown from the plane before it caught fire. Nellie Granger suffered various head injuries and was greatly bleeding. Despite this, she pulled the 2 passengers away from the wreckage and started performing first aid on them both. They needed more assistance than she could give, so she started walking to find help. Amazingly, she walked 4 miles following telephone wires to a farmhouse. She used their phone to call into the TWA office and alert them of the crash. She retraced all of her steps and made it back to the wreckage when rescue workers had just arrived. Nellie and the 2 survivors were taken to the hospital in Uniontown. Only Nellie and one of the passengers survived. Her courageous efforts in assisting the victims got attention from the public eye. All of her steps were traced and equaled close to 11 total miles. Nellie was profiled by the New York Times and Time magazine, and after her recovery, she was promoted to the top position amongst TWA's flight attendants. She continued flying with TWA aircrafts and even had a song written about her story by country singer Joe Barker. She was the first woman flight attendant ever to be proclaimed a hero, and in 2002, a granite monument was constructed at the crash site in memorial for Nellie and all of the passengers and crew on the TWA Flight 1. The letters and envelopes shown from the TWA flight can also be found at the Connellsville Canteen Museum.